Call this meeting order. I thank everyone for being here this early Monday morning. I know most of you maybe had to get here a little earlier than you might have otherwise, but just feel like we need to have some bills heard and and try to get some business done here early in the week so everybody can make some plans. I'd like to ask Chairman John Corbett to open this meeting up with a prayer.
Y'all bow with me, please. Dear Lord, we come before this morning, Lord, just we can know Jesus know how. Lord, just thank you for this beautiful day, Lord. Just thank you for the sunshine and the rain, Lord. Just ask now that as we conduct the business of this state, Lord, that you would just lead, guide, and direct us, Lord, and everything we do and say will be pleasing in thy sight. Lord, just ask all this in your name. Amen.
Thank you. Before we get too far, today is we're commending the Georgia peanut industry and recognizing today, March 1st, is Peanut Butter and Jelly Day at the state capitol. If y'all didn't know that, our peanut industry is across the way at the Sloppy Ford Tower, since they could not be in the capitol under our COVID rules. So they're over there. If you'd like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, they'll be there all morning, and some other ceremonies going on. You can also, I think Lee Goff is arranged to have some sandwiches in our office suite, so you might want to stop by there after this meeting. Got them bringing a few over. But anyway, I think Vice Chairman Holmes is going to do a morning order this morning recognizing our peanut industry on the House floor. So thank you for that. We'll get right into some business this morning. We've House Bill 574, Representative Kemp presented this bill last week or a hearing, and I'd like for her to go first this morning and present this bill and see the wishes of the committee to move this bill.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and committee members. This bill, House Bill 574, is LC 441617, and it is a bill which will aid the Georgia Department of Agriculture, thank you, with helping out with local governments whenever they take in large numbers of animals, more than 29 dogs and more than 29 cats, or more than 9 equine. Local governments are typically very overwhelmed by this situation because it's very dramatic for the local governments to have to take in these animals and the medical care and rehoming and so forth. So they often look to the Department of Agriculture for assistance in abating some of these costs. Unfortunately, there is no line item in their budget for this. So this bill creates a trust fund of $200,000, not to exceed $200,000. And it allows the Department of Agriculture to reimburse local governments up to $50,000 a year for these expenses, these unforeseen expenses local governments typically struggle with. And that's pretty much the crux of the bill. I'm open for any questions.
Thank you, Representative. I see one question. That will be Representative Bentley.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, can you share with me, how did you come up with that particular number? You said 29, not to exceed more than 29 dogs or cats. How did you come up with the number 29?
Well, that's generally, when you get in a situation like that, that's going to be a puppy mill or a hoarding situation. That's a number the Department of Agriculture kind of deems is the situation that is above a typical. And that's when they would be asking for funds. It's not when they take in 3 or 4 cats and dogs.
And the department, follow-up question, if I may, Mr. Chairman, the department will actually reimburse the counties up to $50,000. Am I understanding that correctly?
No, it's $50,000 total. So they're not fully reimbursing the counties for the expenses, but they're trying to offset some of the expenses that would completely overwhelm. For example, I live in a county that does not have a animal shelter. We don't have a humane society. So local county governments, our county would pay other counties to reimbursement for caring for these animals, but it would overwhelm our county because we don't have a line item. We don't have that. So they're not going to 100% reimburse, but they will reimburse a portion of. And Commissioner Black could probably speak on that if you had further questions.
Sure, I can talk offline with Commissioner. Okay,
Thank
thank you. For the sake of time, I'll talk offline with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a similar question. This seems like a great bill. I just want to make sure I understand it. How did you get to the number 200,000?
Well, that's an interesting question. $200,000 is just a good number in case something really happened. It's a cushion in case we had issues with revenue moving forward. So it's just a cushion type thing. If you notice, there is a sundowning. This expires on June 30th, 2031. So this gives a cushion in case our revenues were severely hampered as they were last year.
But we think that that would cover the need, right?
Yes,
Okay.
at this point, and if it's not, we certainly can revisit this issue next year to determine if we need to increase that $50,000 or that $200,000.
Thank you for bringing this.
Thank you.
Thank you. We also have some members online. We have Chairman Clay Perkle online and has a question. Chairman Perkle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Kemp, and I apologize. This is probably covered in the hearing last week and had to jump off last week. Approximately how much money is collected annually for these license and fees? So I could just ascertain how long it would take to collect the $50,000.
Well, my understanding is it's $450,000 annually is collected in these fees.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, who is 9? Representative Donahue.
Quick question. I think you just answered it throughout. So the $50 not to exceed $400, this is where the money will come from.
That is correct.
With
And
this, we have
Yes, sir.
$10,000 that we're putting to where it's not a burden on the commissioner and his office to follow up. So the 10,000, is that enough to cover manpower?
they, based on their estimates, it will be. And again, any program you're starting out, any initiative you start out from the beginning, we'll have to just determine if that will be enough to cover the cost. But based on their estimates, it should be. And to your first point, yes, there will not be any additional fees collected. This will create a trust fund, so those fees will be earmarked for that specific point to care for animals that are in hoarding or puppy mill situations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions concerning the bill? The Representative Camp? See one. Representative, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
makes-
Just to make sure that Representative Kemp, I understand that are we increasing any fees to the counties with these licenses?
No,
Okay.
not to the consumer or to any of the
Okay.
counties. No, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Mhm.
Chairman.
Thank you for that clarification. I would entertain, seeing no more questions, I would entertain a motion, hearing a motion to move the bill. Second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Online. We also online have, who, David? Representative Mitchell and Representative Perkle online and Representative Lim online. So, thank you, Representative Camp. All in favor, and your bill moves on to rules.
Thank
You
you.
very much. Next, I'd like to hear from Chairman Penny Houston on HB 676. This will be the first hearing on this bill. Yeah, go to the mic, please, ma'am. I mean, to the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a bill that we brought last year and it passed the House. and it did not go anywhere in the Senate. And I'm sorry to be bringing it so late, but I had not planned to bring it again since we couldn't get out of the Senate. But apparently your chairman has been talking with the Senate. And so he asked me to bring the bill again. And so let me get my glasses, excuse me. So we have tried he's been communicating with the Senate, and hopefully we've got something. I know we're gonna have to make some changes. This is a hearing only, so please voice your opinion on anything. One reason we did this last year, I don't know if any of you've ever been to some of our farmers markets, but they were in terrible shape. But I'll have to commend the commissioner. Since last year when we were gonna close some of them, they've really made great changes and we put more money in them. And but some of this farmers market farming has changed so much in the last 20 years that a lot of these farmers markets, especially the Atlanta farmers market, is more like a terminal. And there's so many 18 wheelers and large trucks. It's more than people going in and buying produce. So many people for other farmers markets, like in Rome and Albany, they've gone to neighborhood farmers markets, which seem to be more successful. But this is a place where our farmers can bring their produce and fruit and vegetables and sell them. And this, we will be changing the name to the Georgia Farmers Market and Produce Terminal Development Authority. And many of us would like for these farmers markets to be run the same way that we do the fairgrounds in in Perry. And so this bill is sort of modeled after the bill that we have doing the fairgrounds in Perry. And the first part just tells us about the name of it. And in section 2.24.2, this tells you the activities that they can do, like they can have trade shows, they can advertise, what we want to do is to improve the well-being of Georgia agricultural economy. And one thing that really bothers me, if you've ever noticed about the farmers market in Atlanta, I don't know if any of you been, we've had several study committees on it. We have so many trucks coming in and so many food processors that food safety needs to be really addressed. And we're hoping that we can use some of the money to have a special entrance and a special terminal. That's what I'd like. So we can know who's coming in that farmer's market, bringing food and know who's going out and but things like that. I've been head of the agricultural appropriations for I don't tell you how many years, but at first they were using bonds to pave parking lots. And we make money on some of these, but we have to turn all the money back into the state, to the state treasurer. And by having authority, we would be able to keep this money and fix up these farmers markets and make them productive and run them like a business. And we've had to, anytime we wanted money for the farmers market, even though we might put $1 million back in the revenue, we have to go ask for it, and we don't get that much to fix the farmers markets up. So they have been in deplorable condition, and hopefully by doing this authority, we can bring them all up to speed. But the commissioner has done a tremendous job in the last 6 months by changing what we do in some of these farmers markets. I know the Macon Farmers Market was used for shots, for COVID shots, and here, we can tell you some of the changes he's made if you're interested in knowing some of the things he's made. But we're not going to close the farmers market in Savannah, Thomasville, and it was one other place. I guarantee all of them are going to stay open. We did close Columbus a couple of years ago, but when we closed Columbus, apparently nobody cared because we never got a call about it. Anyway, it was a bad contract, and it was just bleeding us over in Columbus, so we did close it. The authority will consist of 10 members, and the members of the authority will be appointed by the governor, the president of the Senate, and the Speaker of the House. Now, we've had some people that want to change the wording on this, and maybe the chairman can tell us the wording that they decided on that they'd like to change. I really can't, didn't stay for the whole meeting, but huh? All right, I'll keep going. We'll go back to that on changes. Okay. Then it tells you what the members are accountable for and that they're trustees of the trustees of the authority, and they have to keep proper books, all receipts, expenditures, and all the things that the authority is responsible for doing. And 2.24.5, this sort of outlines the way it's supposed to be run. And the authorities then would be run like a business or a corporation. And it outlines how that'll be run in 224.5. Then it goes on. I'm sure y'all have already read this before you got here. And it tells you about how you can lease buildings, you can charge rent for them, and you can invest the money that you get. It explains all of that. And then the authority can exercise police powers. And one of the reasons we need police powers is like I brought out about food safety and having food safety at the markets. And so we could exercise police powers in that way. And then the authority can contract too for a security force for the facilities. And they can fix all the rentals. It just explains everything they can do. And then the next thing, the Attorney General will provide the legal service for the authority. And I know you're going to wonder why this was put in, but most large farming is done in rural Georgia. So if you sue somebody, you're going to have to sue where people know about farming, and that's in Tift County. And that doesn't have anything to do that I represent Tift County, I'm sure. But but I want to make sure that if you go to sue, you know why farmers do the things they do. And people down there know farmers. And then 2.24.14 regards bonds. The rest of it, we can issue bonds. And like I said, the state was issuing bonds, and this was not before our commissioner was here, to have parking lots. And there was even some rumors going around that they bought light bulbs with bond money. We don't want to use bond money for operations. Bond money, in my opinion, is not used for operations. It's used to build the facility out and promote the facility, not to operate it on. And hopefully with this, we can use the money that the farmers market makes to operate it on. And it's just page after page regarding the bonds. And there is transparency in the bill. And if you're doing any business at a farmer's market and you're on the board or you're an employee, you do have to disclose it. And I had marked on where the transparency part of the bill was. Let's see. There's transparency. And it also, one thing we talked about, they can appoint a special advisory committee. And I got to thinking, what would an advisory committee be? But when I think about the security and the safety that we need there, you might want to appoint somebody from Homeland Security and a whole group of people to advise you on how you're supposed to set up your security. Because even though we have consumers and farmers and all on the board, we might want to have an advisory committee. We don't have to go by what the advisory committee says, but have some real experts to tell us how we can do this to make sure that someone doesn't come in and destroy our whole agricultural economy. If I have any questions, I know you hadn't had time to, this is a hearing only, and you can have time to read it over the next day or two, but I do know that they have some changes they want to make, and I know there'll be changes in the Senate. If I have any questions.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We do have a question or two. And I want to also just mention here, our legal counsel, Paul Hibb, is here, and I thank you, Paul, for your work on this. I
Oh,
know
excuse
it's
me, Paul, thank you. I
lengthy
didn't see you.
and lengthy. I know our commissioner's here, and I know this bill is new and we haven't had time to do, but I just want to tell the committee we are open. The author is open to changes, and we've discussed some. One of them, she just got through mentioning an advisory committee, Paul, that I don't think is in here.
It's in here.
So
It's in here.
oh, it's in here.
Yes.
And I'd like to ask our council, how do we is the transfer of assets from the department to this authority in this bill? And how do we transfer the real estate and assets over to the authority? What number? Okay.
That's an excellent question, Chairman.
I did not find it.
I didn't find it either.
And how do we go about identifying those assets? I mean, it's going to be pretty tedious.
It will be a substantial project, yes, Chairman. It
Right.
will.
So we'll need an answer to that before we come back on this bill on how to transfer, identify the assets that we're transferring over. So Representative Donahue has got a question, and then I'd like to ask to hear some general comments from the commissioner if he's willing to come up and just sort of say. I just want to say, we talked about this. We have our other authorities operating parks and other things in our state, and they do a real good job. And this is just nothing away from the good job the Department of Agriculture has done operating our produce terminal out here and other farmers markets. It's just a different concept on how we might go to capture these rents and fees and plow them back into the facilities to keep them upgraded to maybe better able to transition some of the facilities in the future. And so just kind of keep that in mind. I think it's all we're trying to do is improve in the future the operation and the long-term viability of these assets of the state. So with that, I'm on Representative Donahue.
Mr. Chairman, let me ask you a question on my dear friends at Jaymore Farms. So they'll have to drive all the way to Tifton, Georgia for a lawsuit.
Well, with Jaymore Farms has a great farming, but that's just a small percent of the farming we have in this state.
And I understand that.
And there's many more farmers would have to drive to Atlanta. We have to drive to Atlanta all the time.
And you know what? I agree with what you're doing here, and I really do.
You just wanted to harass me.
No, I just wanted Jaymore Farms at least go on record that these are great people. And when they do, I can.
Well, the job that Jaymore Farms does, I'm sure they'll never be sued.
Thank you.
Representative Kemp.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I appreciate you very much because I do go to farmers markets, and our state farmers markets sometimes have challenges. And I understand. I've been to Atlanta's farmers market, and it is a shipping organization, which is great. But can you tell me, or maybe Commissioner Black might be able to assist on this one? Is this something that other states do? Do they have authorities for their farmers markets, or is this? Will we be unique?
I don't know if other states have farmers markets.
Well, authorities for their farmers markets.
Oh, I have no idea.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
But we can check, and I tell you, you might not be aware, we're a member of the Southern Legislative Conference and NCSL, and I'll give you a number and you can call and they'll research it and tell us what other states do. And that's a research that you might want to reach out to on a lot of different things. And I'll give the number, okay?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm going to ask Commissioner Black if he would come and kind of speak to this bill a little bit, if he would. Thank you for being here this morning.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Good to see y'all today and happy, may echo the chairman's comments about happy PB&J Day to everybody. We'll have a good day today. Mr. Chairman, when we talked earlier, and first I want to thank the Madam Chair for all her support of our entire operation, but certainly she's passionate about the future of the markets, and we've had some good discussion a couple of years ago, and it hasn't stopped. So we've continued through some of our challenges last spring and early summer, and we have persevered, and I'm very encouraged about where the business is today. This is a fundamental change, but it gets to a primary question that we have asked. We have in different ways, we have discussed it now for 11 years, is whether, if you're looking at the business model, whether it's an authority or other types of tools, because really any of them would work. But the whole issue is that this enterprise generates from $3.5 to $4 million a year net for the state. So we turn the money in and then come back to you for $1 million or $2 million or $3 million in 20-year bonds every year to operate. So we borrow money to operate, yet we've been making $3.5 to $4 million a year that could be retained earnings and could be helped. Now, we're never going to probably never going to be able to build we're in need right now, honestly, if we want to invest in the Atlanta market, which is the pivotal place. We've got two other major investments that need to be made. There are two more of the 12 to $15 million projects that need to be built today to get the total facelift of that market. That's going to be strategic. We'll deal with that. That's what those bonds should be for. But as far as paving parking lots, like the Madam Chair says, and those other things, we ought to use that out of retained earnings. I could see us, if we have access to those funds, you could have a small cap fund, you could have a maintenance and operation fund, you could have a large cap fund, and at least save some money to match what you might do. And there's a lot of creative things we could do if we had those tools in our tool chest. And so certainly the authority is one of them. I appreciate Chairman Perkle being online today. And we had a couple of good conversations last week, because I know we looked at one of the other major trust fund bills that I think is the governor's package that addresses gate funds going for this same purpose. And maybe that's certainly a step in the right direction too. But if we ever want to wrap our hands around the future of the markets, we need to do something like this. We do have some other discussions about who do the people work for. No person can serve. You can't have a foot in a boat and a foot on the shore. We got to make sure who's answering to who. And I'm not sure about transferring employees, honestly. If we're going to have the responsibility, I'd kind of like for those folks to work for us, because I don't know about another board and then having employees answer to a chairman of the board. And we've talked about that. And how we do that, there's ways to get to that. But I just appreciate y'all's attention to it. And we've really made lots of progress this year. I had a meeting with a tenant on Friday for the Cordell market, and there's a possibility that Cordell could go from this time last year. We were 127 in the hole, 227,000 in the hole. It's possible with the tenant that we visited with on Friday that for the first time in anyone's memory, Cordell next fiscal years to come could be positive. The deal we've done in Augusta puts Augusta at $100,000 in the good for the next 5 years. So necessity is the mother of invention. And not that we haven't been paying attention to those things in the past, but they did kind of come together pretty nicely as the budget moved forward last June. And our team's been very diligent, very proud of them. Paul Thompson, the entire team and markets. But we're partners in this along the way. And I just appreciate when this chairman gets hold of something, she doesn't let go, and I appreciate that. And sometimes that she's got hold of my ear, making sure we're doing right, and that's why we're all in this together, and we have success generally at the end. So I'm very grateful, Mr. Chairman. You might have a quick question. Sure, love to try to tackle it.
Thank you. Are there any questions, Commissioner? I know Chairman Watson walked in. I know he's going to have some inputs to this bill. He and I spoke earlier, and so Chairman Watson, you got any questions or comments to the Commissioner or to the bill? What number?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry I was late. I had to go over the rules. Commissioner, do we have an oversight? Will this authority have an oversight committee? And if y'all already talked about this, I apologize. But I know our fairgrounds has an oversight board that's made up of members of this body and chairman of ag committee and those type positions.
We sure would like to have one, but I don't know. Right.
Yes, we can, Council Hibby, could we add that, discuss adding an oversight committee similar to some other oversight committee we got on other boards?
And Mr. Chairman, I hate to come in and keep asking all these questions, but I had one other thing, and I know I'm biased, but as far as the appointment goes, I was wondering if maybe we could amend that to maybe state that it's 2 members who represent our state's agribusiness and or fruit and vegetable interests, as well as 1 member from consumers. Just, fruit and vegetable farmers are who provide the products that are sold on these markets. And if there's an opportunity for one of them, I know they're in the agribusiness, but sometimes if you don't put it in writing, people may overlook them. So I would, if that would be all right, just make sure that don't have to be, but have an option there that they could be represented if so picked by the governor, lieutenant governor, or speaker.
Over there around line 70 or 72, somewhere in there, I think is where Chairman Watson's alluding to the appointment of the authority board.
Mr. Chairman, to Chairman Watson's point too, part of some of the discussions, formulative discussions that we've had is this has taken life. You got to remember you've got. I would want the governor. I would encourage the governor to give consideration, the speaker and the lieutenant governor too, to, you really would like to have someone here who's 159 counties, they're all good, but at the same time, we've got some counties that are directly involved that have a market or a contiguous county. And I don't know that I'd recommend exactly codifying that, but I'd hope that would be something that, you'd certainly, I'm sure the Cordell Crystal County folks would like to have somebody that is with their market would like to be considered same way so that it wouldn't all be concentrated in one place. I'm sure Chairman Watson would agree. Folks around Moultrie would like to have somebody on this authority. So if anybody maybe has some ideas about how you rein that in, or whether we just need to encourage those who'd be appointing them at the proper time. But
yeah, thank you for that. I mean, after reading through this bill, it makes me appreciate the complexities of running, especially Atlanta farmers market terminal out there. You got a lot of interest. You got growers, and you got the wholesalers, retailers. It's local community, and so it's a lot of pieces come together, and it's important pieces in these markets. So we're looking for some good range of input. So Thank
Thank you,
you.
Mr.
Are there any other questions for our committee? I mean, for a legal counsel, for Arthur? If not, we will take these changes into consideration, do a little more addition. And if anybody has any suggestions, I know Chairman Houston is open to that. So thank y'all. I know time is getting close. We have to go to session, so I'm gonna make sure we leave here in plenty of time. I've got one other bill. Representative Gullett has HB 609. Thank you, Representative, being here. Hearing only on this bill, and we'll get it on our agenda here. So I'll go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Chairman Smith and Rules to let me out early, and Chairman Dickey to offer to present the bill if I didn't get back in time. So thank you very much. This is House Bill 609. There's actually a substitute. I hope it's on your desk. It's for LC 441691S. This bill does really three things. It protects law-abiding registered breeders rather than unlicensed roadside sellers. It diminishes the cost shifting from failing businesses to local governments and to taxpayers. And number three, it protects Georgia consumers from unscrupulous individuals who sell sick animals to unwitting families. What this bill does not do is impact farmers selling livestock or the family giving away accidental litter of puppies or kittens. It does not impact responsible hobby breeders and breeders of hunting dogs who sell from their residential or business properties or through online sites. Rather, this bill targets reckless commercial pet breeders who rely on transients to evade existing laws and fleece customers. HB 609 simply makes it unlawful for any person to sell, advertise for sale, or display for commercial purpose any dog, cat, or rabbit, or pet rabbit on any roadside, park, recreational area, flea market, or other outdoor market or commercial parking lot. It exempts the display or adoption of pets by an animal shelter or animal rescue organization, and the display of pets as part of the state, county fair exhibitions, 4-H programs, and similar exhibitions or educational programs. And a little bit about the rationale. I know we got a couple of speakers and we're tight for time, but pet sales at outdoor locations lack state and federal regulatory oversight. Flea markets, parking lots, and roadsides are attractive locations for illegal pet sales because they lack easy oversight by state and federal agencies. And the transience of the sale locations allows the owners to evade legal liability for illnesses contracted prior to sale. The USDA does not monitor breeders who sell via face-to-face, and the Georgia Department of Agriculture doesn't license breeders claiming to produce or sell 1 litter or less per year. Cash sales and lack of record keeping common at these venues allow sellers to evade businesses and tax laws. In addition, unlicensed breeders who sell in parking lots and along roadsides supply the muscular bully type dogs used in fighting dogs or guard dogs for attempted criminal enterprises. Number two, the bill protects responsible breeders. Responsible hobby breeders and breeders of hunting dogs who sell from the residential or business properties or through online sites will not be impacted by this bill. 609 targets reckless commercial breeders who rely on transients to avoid legal compliance and liability to make a quick profit while cheating local, state, and federal governments of tax revenue. And it puts the breeders who comply with the law really at a competitive disadvantage. It gives law enforcement an additional tool in the tool bag. The bill provides an additional tool in law enforcement's tool bag because it reduces the burden of enforcing existing laws. An outright ban on outdoor sales of pets alleviates the need for law enforcement to determine violations of licensing and breeding laws, a resource consuming process, and who illegally abandon or kill animals left unsold at the end of the day in violation. It requires no additional funding, does not involve Georgia Department of Agriculture oversight or enforcement, and is supported by law enforcement, including the Georgia Animal Control Association. That's the professional association for animal control officers. It reduces the economic burden on local governments for pet overpopulation. This is a big, important piece to mind. I've talked to Commissioner Black, who's still here, about TNR programs in my county. Local governments and taxpayers are responsible for the impoundment, care, and euthanasia of excess animals produced by unlicensed breeders. County shelters alone cost Georgia taxpayers approximately $75 million. I spoke so highly of this bill, it caught the building on fire, maybe.
We've got a fire alarm. Do not know what procedure is. I think, thank you, Chairman. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for your support.
Hopefully it's just a false alarm, but I think we need to probably cancel the meeting and let's head over to the Capitol. Thank you very much.
Thank
Meeting
you.
adjourned.
Well, thank you.